Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be on with you today. We have a wonderful conversation for Wells Fargo's second quarter session of the Connect to More speaker series. Today's conversation will focus on the role of grants in capitalizing small businesses. And if you're a small business owner, our hope is that we can give you some tips about how to, one, identify grant opportunities and then successfully apply for those opportunities. My name is Jenny Flores. I'm the head of Small Business Growth Philanthropy for Wells Fargo. And my role at the bank is to ensure that small businesses have the resources, the technical assistance, and capital to be able to grow, build wealth, and to thrive. An important component of our strategy is definitely to ensure that small businesses have access to grants. And as an example of this, during the pandemic, Wells Fargo launched the Open for Business Fund, which is a $420 million initiative that provided grants as well as low-cost capital capped at 3% interest rates, partnered with the mentorship and technical assistance that we believed was needed to ensure that that capital got utilized in the most strategic way. And I'm very, very honored to say that to date, we've supported over 188,000 small businesses across this country to be able to survive the pandemic and to really come out of that in a stronger position. So phenomenal work got accomplished, knowing that grants was a key strategy in helping to make that happen. And in order to execute on that $420 million commitment, we collaborated with over 240 nonprofits across the country to identify small businesses that were eligible and then to deploy that grant capital. And we have several of those partners here with us today, and I'm so delighted to be able to introduce them to you because they have volunteered their time to share their expertise with you so that you can take away some of these key learnings and utilize them in your own business. So first, let me start with Carolyn Roz, who's a co-founder and CEO of Hello Alice. Carolyn, please introduce yourself and welcome.
Thank you, Jenny, and hi everybody. So great to be here with all of you today. I'm Carolyn Roz. As Jenny said, I'm one of the co-founders at Hello Alice, and I always say I started Hello Alice as the answer to what I wish I would have had when I started my first business. Now, I'm closing in on 20 years ago, which is quite crazy to say. Hello Alice now supports over 1.2 million small business owners, helping them measure and improve the fundamental health of their business. Ensuring that we're opening doors as entrepreneurs put in the hard work that it takes to run their business, that we're helping to open doors to capitals and networks and opportunities that are relevant to them at every stage of the journey. So excited to dig in on grants. It's something I'm very passionate about. We actually started Hello Alice ourselves with grant capital. And I'm proof here to say that it's a great building block as you think about your capital journey.
Great. Well, thank you, Carolyn. Next, Connie Evans, who's the president and CEO of the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. Welcome, Connie.
Thank you, Jenny, and hello, everyone. As Jenny mentioned, I'm Connie Evans, and we usually go by the name AEO, so it stands for the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. But AEO is the National Trade Association for U.S. microfinance and microbusiness. We have over 2,600 member organizations, most of whom are nonprofits, who provide capital and business support services or trusted guidance to entrepreneurs across the country in every state. I care deeply about everything entrepreneurship. I am the product of a self-employed mother who put 4 kids through college in Tennessee, running a catering business from our home. I have studied and we work so closely with business owners all around the country. We believe we have a great understanding of their needs, their challenges, and the opportunities that are really out here in the marketplace for them. Our work, though, is focused on helping them build a more robust marketplace by increasing the understanding that our society and public policymakers have for understanding these business owners and their needs, as well as making sure there are solutions that are fitted for their particular needs. I look forward to sharing more with you about our grant experience.
Great. Thanks, Connie. And then last but certainly not least is Zulmari Padin, who's the founder and CEO of Latinas Power Inc. and Open for Business recipient, which just makes me so proud. Welcome, Zulmari. You're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here as a grant winner. I am very, very, very happy because this grant is going to really make a huge difference in our business and the commitment that we have with our community of women. My name is Zulmari Padin. I have been accelerating the success of women all over the world as a coach, a trainer in corporate, and also for small businesses. I have founded Latinas Power, which is an organization that is in the mission to empower 1 million Latinas in the United States to accelerate their success, teaching them the skills and the tools that they need so they can really get out of this gender gap that we experience. If you don't know this, Latinas are the group that make the least amount of money, whether it's career or as a small business owner. Career-wise, we're making 54 cents for every dollar of a non-white Hispanic, and we are making $52,000 versus $200,000 a year that a small business owner American will be making. We are here to change that, and that's why this grant and this opportunity for us to accelerate this mission, it's so important to us, and especially to me, because I'm very passionate about helping and supporting everything that has to do with accelerating the success of women.
Great. Well, welcome, Zulmari. And I know that all of us are so passionate, and I know this firsthand because I collaborate with you all the time. I would like for you to describe this journey, since grants can be so powerful in the support of a small business owner. If you could describe that process from how you found the grant opportunity, like how you applied, maybe what you were able to share to successfully secure that grant, I think that would be very helpful to those entrepreneurs who may be thinking about going down this route. The question for Zulmari.
Hi. Okay, that question is for me. Well, you will not believe that I'm also a TV personality that is in Despierta America, which is the #1 TV show seen in the Hispanic market. I am the coach for success for Hispanics. And even though I have had this successful organization since 2014, when COVID came, my business, just like many of the people who are listening to this call, came to a full stop. So in that journey of trying to figure out how to move forward and what were those changes that I need to make in the organization, I started searching, and Hello Alice, which I am so happy is in our call because I'm a Hello Alice fan. I'm part of the community, and they send you information, which everybody should register right now if you're not, about everything that's happening. And that's how I ended up finding out about this grant. But the process was not an easy one. Business is not easy. So I'm not here to say it's like a breezy peasy, go do your grant process. It's not an easy process, but it is a very comprehensive process if you get organized on how to do it. And I think that grants are another way of capital. They really can fuel money into your organization to accelerate to that next level. So it's worth putting in the time to understand what are the requirements of the grant. That was very important in my own process.
Do you remember some of the core components of that grant requirement? Like, do you remember what was important to have?
Oh yeah, I had a sticker on my computer to remind me that I was part of those things that were required. So first, in our case, you had to be it was designed exclusively to support the areas or the communities that are underrepresented here in Miami. The other thing that you needed to be owned by a Hispanic, a veteran, or someone who is in disability. So those communities that usually don't get a lot of resources. The other thing that you had to do is that you couldn't make, I believe you had to make less than $1 million. I only wish I was in that ballpark. Cannot wait. And pretty much, and you also, even if you were not in the precisely neighborhoods that are underrepresented here in Miami-Dade, if your organization, like in my case, impacted the community at large, then you could also qualify.
Got it. So there were specific criteria that were part of the application and you met those, so that allowed you to move forward and apply. Can you describe for me, once you applied, were there any interviews as part of that? Like, what were some of the components that you remember from them assessing?
I remember this very well because I gave it a lot of thought and I share it with everyone in my community for it to participate. So the most important thing, going back to requirements and also the goals of the grant. When you're going through the process of fulfilling your application, I need to make sure that I was understanding what exactly this grant wanted to do, to make sure that I was in alignment. And in our case, the fact that we have this work with our community and we're focused on supporting women, which is also an underserved group in terms of resources, it was key. The other thing is that they ask you a lot of questions about your company, your purpose, what are your goals, how are you going to use the funds? And in the requirement, well, in the documentation, you also had to show what the proposed funds, how were you going to use those funds? In our case, we were building a podcast and studio to impact all these women using the online resources because now we are worldwide. So I think that's pretty much the main things. We didn't have an interview, but the Miami Foundation, which is the organization that supported us through this process, did help us with our partner here, the Self-Work Partners, to have a phone call to help us understand better what were the different details that we needed to make sure they were honed in order to be able to apply.
Great. Can you share with our audience how you think about grants as part of your overall capital strategy? How are you thinking strategically about leveraging that grant?
The truth of the matter is that I never thought of grants. As a Latina, launching an organization that's called Latinas Power, my dream was always not to be perceived as a non-for-profit, because every time a woman does something, especially if a Latina does something, they're like, oh, let me help you with a donation. And I really wanted to get out of that. So when I started my organization, I wanted to be for-profit, and our sponsors were only Latinas Power members in order to show that we had a lot of power and resources and we were doing incredible things and having a lot of impact. Now, what really changed the narrative with that was the COVID, to be honest. I had never looked for any source of grants or any other programs that the government had. It was the COVID that really put me in that situation to really look at how am I going to continue and how am I going to shift. And that put me in the spot to start looking into it. And when I started to research, I just couldn't believe that in America, we have so many resources and so many companies like Wells Fargo who are doing amazing things to help us small businesses. So now I have become an advocate to let everybody know out there that these opportunities are available because I didn't know about them. And in terms of how it has changed, it has changed because this money that's given to you is not meant to actually, it's not meant to transform your life. You really need to have some stability going on. You really need to know where you're going and have a vision as to where you stand for. But it is like this fire that at least it puts us to continue, and even in our case, to go to use technology in a very powerful way, which we haven't been doing. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, absolutely. And I will add, from the Wells Fargo perspective, when we set up that grant program, it was $100 million that we put into 5 cities, Miami being one of them. And the idea was that entrepreneurs can benefit from having the support to build assets, because assets are what allow you to build, strengthen your business. You could leverage the assets later on to, get a loan. And we just really wanted to help entrepreneurs, not necessarily with working capital, but to have an asset acquisition purchase, right? Whether it's the real estate or technology, like you mentioned, that could really help that business go to the next level. And so it was a very targeted use of capital in a stream of other capital that the business is using to sustain its business and grow. And so that's how we look at it. Our grant capital, the Wells Fargo dollars, are going for asset purchases that can make a real difference. So thank you for sharing that perspective.
Yes. And in our case, I just want you to know that it was huge because, for example, a lot of women in my Latina community do not know about Carolyn Rodriguez. Carolyn Rodriguez was in the scope for all of us. Like, you don't know, I'm a fan of Carolyn and everything. Hello, Alice. It's in the fintech world. They have been using artificial intelligence to do everything that they're doing. They're impacting, like, I think last time I checked, it was like 900,000 small business owners. Carolyn didn't pay me for this. I'm just really sharing this with you because now when we launch our podcast, I'm going to be able to interview her. And now a lot of women who don't know about Carolyn or that what Hello Alice is doing in our community are going to be able to learn about that. So for us, it was huge. It was huge. And also for the impact that we're going to continue to make worldwide now. Now Latinas Power goes to the world. Thank you.
Great. No, and it sounds like you are an incredible ambassador for Hello Alice and the power of the work. So I'm going to transition. Thank you very much, Lumari. I'm going to transition to getting the perspective now of what I would call intermediaries, organizations like Hello Alice and AEO, who are like at the center of working with corporations like Wells Fargo and others who want to provide that grant capital. And Hello Alice and AEO help us identify those entrepreneurs, help us get the word out, help us like really ensure that we are targeting these resources appropriately. So I really want to get this perspective front and center. So this question for both Carolyn and Connie, and I'll start with Carolyn. How do you think about the role of grants in supporting small businesses? Because as Lumari said, she had never thought about it, but it's such an important component, can be an important component of the overall strategy. So your perspective on that?
Yeah, I love, so Marie, what you said about thinking about it as a piece of your journey. And Jenny, I think you reiterated how it is not oftentimes grant capital is not meant to be just keeping the lights on for another pay cycle or helping to push through that little bit. That doesn't solve the problem. That's a patch and not a cure. Really thinking about most grant programs tend to be, how are you helping to propel growth to the next tier of your business? And how can you provide that bridge capital to get through to the next level? You should already be able to maybe it's to help you show proof of concept, or maybe it's to help you purchase an asset, as Jenny mentioned, to help grow to the next level. Or maybe it's to help you bring in that talent that you need to be able to scale your sales or operations. Really thinking about how are you using it to grow, not to maintain. And when we see almost every corporation or every government grant out there is really looking at that growth capital component. That said, it's a great opportunity to think about before you're ready to walk into a bank and get a loan, or even if you are at that stage. It can be it fits a really unique space, I think, in the capital continuum. We look at there's credit cards for working capital, there's loans to think about some bigger purchases, there's venture capital for that long-term growth, but grants provide it's a way to test and take some risks that you might not otherwise be able to take, and to help grow that company. So I think it's a really important piece of the strategy to consider. It's oftentimes best for companies like Silmarie, who really know where they want to put it to work and they have a clear strategy in place. Very easy to tell when you're looking at applications, having looked at tens of thousands of them myself. I can say you can definitely see people that are solely after the money versus people who've already put thought into their strategy. And so I think it's important to consider how you want it to grow your business and actually what is your strategy versus saying there's free money out there and I need to go get it. It's unlikely that category of applicant will actually get the grant. It's usually the people that have a clear strategy, have a clear vision, know where they're putting that capital to work. And this can be a great opportunity to grow.
So I'm going to pull out one of the tips I am hearing, Carolyn, from you, and that is like once you know what your strategy is, being able to clearly articulate, if I were to get this grant, this is how I would use it to lever it up for impact growth. Being able to communicate that can position you in a way that you can shine and someone can give you that money, like they'll be more likely to give you the money as a grant because they know that clearly you know where you're going with this. So
exactly, it's clarity in the vision and then feasibility of that application of capital, right? I think people want to know every grant provider, and Jenny, I'm sure you can back me up if relevant to you all, but you're looking to actually grow the ecosystem. And I think it's an incredible way that we all play together, right? There are entrepreneurs that are out there putting this capital to work, growing and investing in their communities and doing these great things. There are corporations like Wells Fargo that are looking for ways also to support the community and grow. And so in that, you're very much aligned in the success of the entrepreneur. And if that entrepreneur can show that they're able to position themselves to be one of those companies that can take a greater role, that can put more capital to work, that can create jobs, that can build that thriving entity, that's the vision that many grantors want to see. And also for us, right? We want to see those companies grow because those companies hire and do all of the great things that push our broader mission forward. So there's great alignment. I think entrepreneurship is one of those spaces that everybody is aligned, and that if the entrepreneur succeeds, everybody succeeds for many, many different reasons, but everybody succeeds. And so it's the more you can show that that business is the one to bet on, the more likely to receive that grant capital.
Right. There are multiple impact points when we invest in entrepreneurs. So thank you for highlighting that, Carolyn. I'm going to turn to Connie. And Connie, I know that you have managed multiple millions of dollars in grants to small businesses. I'm curious about your perspective about the role of grants in an overall capital strategy and any insights you can provide from your experience.
Sure. I think grants, I look at grants from a perspective of the three different continuums of business, at least how we consider three. There are startups, there are what we would call stand-ups that are just, making their way and developing their business. And then there are growth companies. And so our experience is primarily with grants with the startups and those stand-ups. The startups are using grants, and a startup, let me define that here. A startup that I'm talking about is under 3 years old. And so we found that often where, in particular, Black business owners don't have access to friends and family money, they really are looking for grant dollars. They're looking for ways of being able to take their product or their service beyond test, really get it in the marketplace, and not able to access loan capital. And so grant dollars become very important just for them to keep moving as a startup, to gain more sales, to gain more customers, and gain the experience, and hopefully also find ways to build their credit so that they're able to hopefully leverage those grant dollars into loan capital at some other point, or for a larger grant that they may be eligible for. When a stand-up, and that's what we had in most of the cases in getting grant dollars to more than $300 million in grants to primarily Black business owners who, again, had revenues that were under $1 million. And the businesses were over 2 years old in most cases, not all, some were even younger, but in most cases, 2 years old or older. And what we found is that because these grant programs came to AEO in corporate partnerships during the racial equity commitments or in the unrest that prevailed during those couple of summers, what we saw was those stand-ups had to pivot. They had to pivot very quickly. Many of them needed resources to keep just the doors open, keep something, revenue and ability to meet customers in some other way. Some had to start total new businesses. Grant dollars were the only thing that they could access. Again, we're talking about a particular segment of business owners, particularly Black business owners, who just did not have access to capital, access to loan capital at a desperate time when they really needed it. So we have found grants to be very valuable in helping, regardless of which level of business that they're in, whether they're starting, standing, or growing. But in addition to the capital, what we also found that was just amazing and heartfelt is the sense of hope that people communicated back to us. Many of the grants that were provided to entrepreneurs, AEO did follow up like a year later, sometimes it was 6 months later. But in one example, for example, with PayPal was our first grant partner, and we gave out $10 million in grants the first year, and then the first time, and then we came back and gave additional $5 million. But 1 year later, the people who had received grants for an entire, had them out for an entire year, 97% of those businesses were still in operation. And in 6 months, the smaller group that we did, who got to 5 million, and we evaluated them 6 months later, 94% were still in business. I think if you think about the pandemic and what was happening to those businesses at the time, the idea that these grants were able to help that kind of impact and outcome, I think is really exciting and should speak to the value of providing small grants on a permanent basis, not just in emergency and extraordinary circumstances. So we think there's lots of value in grants. And again, the piece that women told us, or business owners told us about what it did for their psyche, what it did for their emotional upbeat, was just amazing. It brought you to tears reading some of the acknowledgments and replies that folks gave us. So it's something there about hope as well as the capital itself that I think is a very valuable lesson.
Right, and you bring up so many really great points. The first of which is the use of these grants, like in a strategic sense, right? The friends and family rounds for many diverse entrepreneurs is non-existent. We can't go to our parents and ask for $500,000. We just can't, because the wealth isn't there. So as an alternative, thinking about grants as that friends and family round is really important, because there are grants for that purpose out there. So I just want to put it out that that is a really valid use of a grant capital. The second thing you said was that for like a crisis moment, like the pandemic, a lot of grants were available to help stabilize, right? So that was a really valid use and an important one because of the outcomes, 94% still in operations. Months later, obviously was an impactful use of that capital. And there's this other question now that, like, should we think about grants as a valid and viable financing strategy for entrepreneurs on an ongoing basis that is not necessarily to be relied on as like the single source, but as another strategic source of support? So can you talk to me about what trends you're seeing now post-pandemic? Like, are grants still available, and like, is the use of those funds shifting? Like, I would love to have your perspective on what's the status of the grants for entrepreneurs at this time.
So I don't mind going first. I'm sure Carolyn has some other perspectives as well. We're not seeing very many. AEO just launched a grant program last week, within the last week or so, with Pfizer. But it was very limited. It was only in Atlanta and surrounding areas of Atlanta. But that's one of the last ones that I've seen. I think, a lot of the companies who made commitments have not come through on those commitments, unlike Wells Fargo. Thank you very much for keeping your commitment. But many of those companies have not. And so we're finding that the landscape for grants is shrinking somewhat, especially for the grants of $10,000, $20,000 and below. Those grant opportunities, from our perspective, seem to be shrinking very quickly. On the other place, though, that we're trying to do, we are hearing more foundations who, like the Kauffman Foundation, and others who are working with AEO and other groups to try to really push and get public dollars for capital and grants. There are big grant programs that the federal government operates, but we're still talking about people who are looking for capital of $100,000 and less. Where do they go? Where do they find a grant? And so we're hoping that we can continue to push a public policy program that tells the Small Business Administration, that tells Congress, both sides of Congress, that these grants are powerful for businesses and they need to be part and baked into the support and capital access strategies that governments, local, state, and federal governments are looking into.
Great. Very interesting. I agree with you, Connie. I think we need a policy to help codify the role of grants in supporting small businesses. Carolyn, your thoughts?
You know, I think there is a place for some businesses to weave grants as a sustainable strategy. It is high risk. It's the reality is most grant applicants don't receive the grant. The percentage of people that receive the grants was actually quite small. However, the process of applying for grants is incredibly beneficial. I say often for people considering raising venture capital, the same thing. Going through the experience, honing in on your strategy, really tightening up your direction is never a waste of time. And so it can be really, really useful as you're thinking about growing your company. I think the companies where it is most beneficial, where we're seeing more grant dollars going forward, tend to sit around, as Connie mentioned, in the government space, a lot of things around innovation and things that are of national interest. They're certainly putting a lot of dollars towards those. AI, as an example, there's a ton of funding going right now, anything related to defense or national security. There's a lot of dollars going there. The National Science Foundation puts out a ton of grants. So those areas make a lot of sense. The reality is most small businesses don't fall into those categories. The flip side, let's say the other bucket where we're seeing continued investment, albeit less, and I think in line with what Connie was saying, is for what we call the new majority, but groups, whether it's women or people of color or immigrants or people with disabilities, we're continuing to see funding for those groups. A lot behind the Black community, we're continuing to see probably the majority of grant funds there in terms of corporate dollars. And then also people who are heavily invested in community impact. And so there are certainly people that are reinvesting in their communities. They're kind of triple bottom line businesses that are sort of people, planet, profit. There are definitely some grant dollars there as well. Foundation dollars are there. They're a little bit more difficult to come by, but we certainly work on aggregating as many of those grant opportunities as we can to help push it out and make the process a little bit more efficient to discover those grants. And then also, I'll say grants.gov, I think, is a great resource to check out for some of those larger government grants.
Thank you for sharing those perspectives. So I'm curious, given the opportunities that seem to be not as prevalent as during the pandemic, but still very much alive, grant opportunities, what recommendations would you have for small business owners? Like, one, where should they look? And then second, if they do find the opportunity, like, what advice would you have for ensuring that they're putting their best foot forward in order to hopefully get that grant capital?
Also, I think Silbury gave a great example of leaning on local organizations to help prep those grants. It's really difficult to write a grant application that stands out. Like anything, if you were to write a college application or you're applying for a job, you really spend time on thinking about how are you representing yourself. And it's no different with a grant application. So we have a bunch of workshops and things that we host consistently on how to optimize your grant application. The SBA has some great resources on how to apply for grants. There are great grant writers for those of you going after bigger grant dollars, particularly some of those big government grants. That's a science of its own, just to get through the process and even get registered to apply for them. So those, I would highly recommend actually hiring a consultant to work through the process if it's something that you feel like really fits in line with your business. It does, unfortunately, require a bit of an investment to get there, but they're large dollars, so maybe worthwhile. On the corporate side, I think corporations are working really hard to streamline the grants process and make it a lot easier. So we love those applications because they're much more straightforward. It doesn't require all the registration and hoops that you have to go through on the government side. And so those often can be done internally, but at least making sure that you have a copywriter that's looking over it, or someone who's, even a friend or family member who's good at writing, and also someone who really understands the financials of your business to help you prepare those materials and help show that, one, you have good, strong metrics behind your business, you understand the growth levers of your specific company, you have a strong lens into what is going to power that growth going forward. You're really building the case for why your company deserves the money, because there's a lot of applicants out there and you have to stand out. And so it requires a really, really polished and thoughtful submission.
Thoughtful submission, friends. That's what it's about. Thank you. Connie.
Again, I think I would just make sure that I want to communicate clearly to the business people who are in this conversation and in our audience today. I think it's so important to know and be realistic about where their business is, because again, when you're looking at a small amount of grant dollars, we found that there's quite a bit of fraud in terms of people saying they were grant writers. We actually got called by a couple of the banks who were having trouble with someone who was saying that they were that. So I want to make sure, again, if you're going for a large federal or state grant, that probably is necessary, but you really want to check those people out, really vet them so that you're not taken advantage of. Because in some of just the corporate grants during the pandemic and those issues, there was a bit of fraud going on. So I really want to make sure that people are just being cognizant of who they're dealing with and vet them like you would vet any other supplier or consultant that you would be hiring.
Great point, Connie. Great point.
Thank you. AEO does put on training sessions and info sessions to help people prepare for the grant opportunities that are available. Each corporation has different requirements, different eligibility, etc. And so we want to make sure that expectations of each grant experience is clearly understood by the applicant. So that's one piece of recommendation. They can sign up. If there's not a current grant opportunity, they can sign up to be alerted when there are grant opportunities. One of the advantages that AEO has is working through those 2,600 member organizations. And so they also help us get the word out in their local communities to the small business owners that they support. So that's another way of find the local nonprofit organization in your community and make sure you're staying in touch. You're looking at their website, you're signing up for their newsletter and getting information about the opportunities that might come forward. Was there another part of your question, Jenny? I think I may have forgotten part of it.
No, I think you've answered it. I'm going to transition a little bit to this theme that's coming out about coaching, mentorship, like some of us know as technical assistance, because grants, when you partner that with really quality, trusted technical assistance, is very, very powerful. What we saw in our own investments is when we did that, is that even during the pandemic, businesses who had the grant and a coach or a mentor that was trusted were able to grow revenues 20%, even during the pandemic. So you know that that combination is very powerful. Can you share, I guess entrepreneurs are very busy. And oftentimes when they're like, oh, come to this session, it's like, oh, no. I have way more things to do. Like I got to run my business. And so they often will not pay attention to that. Can you talk about, and I'll go to Sulmaria on this one, like how you are able to distinguish, like, okay, this is a potential opportunity. You said you were working with Miami Foundation, for example. Like, I'm going to invest the time because I find these qualities of this coaching or mentorship opportunity, just so that we can be clear of what it really does work in practice when you invest the time with a coach or mentor or, seek out technical assistance.
Well, for me, it's always about looking the purpose of the grant. What is the reason and what do they want, the company wants to accomplish? And I'm always searching. And I think that for everybody who's listening to us, as entrepreneurs, yes, we're very busy, but we do have to take some time to be strategic. And if we're always like dealing with the fires of the business, there's no place for growth. So I think it's very important for me And I coach women on this because women are busy, not only with the business, but they're busy with the kids. And when it comes to Latinas, we get to be responsible for the neighbor, for our families in our countries. So it's a lot on our hand. And if we do not take at least half an hour a day to look into research, to learn about what's going on in the market, what's changing, and what opportunities are out there, we're never going to get out of that, hamster wheel. So that would be the first thing, to take time for it. Since my experience and with the pandemic, I now have been networking with every single organization that there is, local and also national. So they can also learn about what we're doing as an organization. And going back to your coaching, I realized when I went through my own process that I needed to coach all these other women from my community who also wanted to apply for the grant, because in the part that I see that everybody fails is in selling why are you worthy of this. Because at the end of the day, like, there's your projections and your business, but at the end, the grants are being given to make impact. They want you to, with that investment, be able to do something. And out of like 400 people in the grant that might be, or 500 or 1,000 that might be applying, you need to stand out. And that takes time to actually really go through understanding how to present what makes you unique and what you're doing. It's going to really make a difference, to the point that Carolyn was saying before, in your community. Because it's not just about me getting benefits also, but also the impact that you're going to have, or the people that you impact around your community. And the other thing that I think is also very important is the finances. I also got very impacted with understanding and realizing for me, that I wasn't as keen in what it was the future. Like, I had all these ideas of what I wanted to do, but I had not really gone deep onto making those projections. So I really encourage everybody who's listening to us, if you have a dream, if you have a project, if you have an idea, start working on those financials, start working and coming up with what would you be doing. It's easier to have that like on a folder in your company. And because when the grants happen, you got to run. And you got to do things quickly. So you cannot just wait for the grant to be available for you to start doing all this work. Well, you can, but it might take you a bit longer. So that would be a suggestion. And then also, that's why in my organization, I have created, in our coaching programs, I have created now a section about how to apply for grants and understand the value that you bring.
I love what you said about investing in yourself, even as a business, because that's the way you will grow. Even 30 minutes a day to learn something, like go talk to somebody, it's absolutely critical for that growth of the business. Connie, I'm going to go to you because I know you offer through AEO a variety of support to entrepreneurs. So I would love for you to share, in addition to the grants, like, what does AEO offer that helps entrepreneurs think strategically and take advantage of other opportunities in the market?
Yeah, we are very, very grateful to Wells Fargo for supporting this work and AEO providing what we call trusted guidance. I've never met an entrepreneur who knows what technical assistance is, but they all want trusted guidance, and that's what we really try to do. You helped us build a platform, actually. A number of corporations, including, I won't go through the laundry list, but a number of corporations really helped us build a platform where we could take trusted guidance onto a technology where it was on demand, where we have not only that can entrepreneurs go to, it's called Resili. This Resili was built specifically for Black business owners, and it helps them understand their business. They can take an assessment in their own time frame, 3 a.m, 1 o'clock, whatever works for them. And they get an immediate feedback in terms of where are the strengths and challenge areas in different parts of their business. They're able then to immediately get recommendations on how to strengthen that. The recommendations point to content on Resili that they can use, or they can go elsewhere. They can also get a coach that helps them match the content with the challenges and helping making a plan. I was really inspired by Zumari, I'm sorry if I messed up your name, as she was talking about the typical entrepreneur who is just in the business. We talk about helping business owners go from CEO, chief everything officer, to chief executive officer of their own companies. And you need the tools and technology to do that. I want to say one more thing that you talked about, Jenny, earlier. You talked about it as in the pandemic experience. AEO's research outside of this, prior to the pandemic, indicated that when a business owner receives capital and trusted guidance, their growth was by 30 percentage points higher than those who only received capital. That is something significant. 30 percentage points higher growth than those who only receive the capital. And so we know trusted guidance is important. What our industry and the intermediaries that you referenced earlier, what we all need more to do, though, is how to use technology. How do we get technology into the hands of business owners? How do we get content and other tools and solutions to business owners that are on demand, that really recognizes the challenges they are in the 24-hour day, because we all have the same 24 hours. And so how can we bring more technology, more solutions that are on-demand driven by the entrepreneur themselves? And that's what AEO is trying to do, not only for the businesses who are coming to us, but primarily for our member organizations who are serving millions of business owners across the country. We're trying to develop these tools, innovate solutions, and push them out into the industry for broader use and scale.
Excellent, Connie. So I'm going to reiterate the goal that she just made. It's capital and trusted guidance. Those two things, when you find them, can help you grow exponentially. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Carolyn, now I know Hello Alice has also built an amazing platform that supports entrepreneurs with a lot of knowledge. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Sure. It's always been our belief that there's so much to learn from one another's experiences. It's one thing to ask an entrepreneur that's been through a successful experience 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or in a different industry or in a different geography or with a different background. It's a really different experience. So we have built technology to do is really learn from what are the entrepreneurs like you benefiting from? How are they growing their companies? What are they doing that's working? What are they doing that's not working? And how do we help put entrepreneurs on a path that is most tailored to who they are, where they are in their business at a moment in time, and what they need to get to the next level. Hello Alice is really centered around the idea that business health is built around 8 core frameworks, looking at things like your team and culture, or your strategy, or finance, or your funding, your operations, looking at these core frameworks saying, okay, how do you optimize and what does it mean to be a healthy business with a strong foundation in each of these areas? Once an owner comes through and measures the overall health of their business, they're getting recommendations on how to improve that health over time, and are getting an action plan. Meanwhile, they're with every growth phase that they're achieving, and as they're improving their business and growing to different levels, opportunities are opening up that are relevant at that moment in time. There's so much out there, but it's not worth an entrepreneur's time to go apply for grants that they're not yet ready for. It's not worth their time to go try to join a network that they're not yet ready for. But there's a ton of resources at every stage that are very relevant to where you are. So whether you're at the earliest stages, just starting out, as we talked about before, trying to bridge that friends and family round, trying to build proof of concept, trying to get your business off the ground, there's a ton available. If you're looking to grow to the next level, if you're looking to expand into new markets, if you're looking to hire team members or invest in new inventory, or get that brick and mortar going, there are a ton of opportunities out there. It's just finding the right ones for you. And the more targeted you get in the things that you need at a moment in time, the more you're able to dedicate effort and energy to those initiatives, and the more those doors are going to start to open. There's always a ton of no's in entrepreneurship. That's just the reality of it. But we're a resilient group, and the ones that take those no's and keep plugging away, and they know they're on the right path, that's where we start to see change. I always tell people, when we look for funding at Hello Alice, we got over 500 no's with our first round of capital. Everybody told us we should go be a nonprofit. That's how we should be structured. That's what we needed to do. We kept at it. We eventually raised capital. With grant funds the same way. We've applied for hundreds of grant opportunities over the years. Gotten a small selection of those, but they've been incredibly beneficial to our business. Hiring employees, we've gotten lots of people who have turned us down, but we've continued to find great talent to come grow the business. So it is persistence, but it's being targeted in that persistence. And that's where platforms, so like AEO, like Hello Alice, like a lot of the things that Wells Fargo is out sharing, that's where those networks and communities become so critical to help you find the right opportunities for you.
I love the phrase you use with targeted persistence. It's not just persistence, like you keep hitting a wall. It's like, no. I'm going to zero in on this opportunity because I know it's a match for me and I'm going to keep at it. So thank you for that.
And you learn in that process, right? You're getting feedback along the way. If you are out talking to people, you're trying to get a loan and everybody's telling you the same thing, take it, work on it, fix it, make it better, and go reapply. The same thing with grant applications. Like take and ingest the feedback and it only makes you stronger.
Excellent. Well, we are almost at time. I'm going to just do a quick fire round of if there's one last piece of advice that you would like to share related to grants or any other topic you feel is really important for our entrepreneurs who are listening to gain, please share that with us. I'll start with Connie, then I'll go to Zilmarie, and then we'll close with Carolyn. Connie.
My message would be to be prepared. I'm terrible with sayings, but there was some old saying about success is preparation meeting something. I don't know, but opportunity or something. But that's the issue, is be prepared. Get organized now. People are going to ask you for your paperwork, your numbers, all of that. Just get organized, have all that paperwork in one place. One of the things we had trouble with people couldn't apply for PPP and things because they couldn't find their paperwork. They couldn't get information. Get your information together, get it organized, have it ready.
All right, get organized, everybody. Zilmarie.
Well, I'm going to say to every woman that's listening to me that it is the most important time in history for you to be successful and for you to make your dreams come true with your business. With technology, it's changing our lives. And there are so many opportunities out there, and you need to stop and take opportunity to look at what's available to you. And when you are looking at these opportunities, don't shy away. Don't be like, oh, I'm not ready. Oh, I don't know. Just go and find help and support. You can come to me, zilmarie.com. I'll be there to help you. You can go to my organization, latinaspower.com. You can go to Hello Alice or IAO. Just go and do it and move forward, because a lot of times we think we don't have it all together. Women, we just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then we just stop. And we just need to keep going in order to make things happen. So, and if you're Hispanic, make your influence matter. We're hot in this market, and a lot of people are paying attention because we're a driving force in this economy. So Latina women, just go for it.
Excellent. Don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Go for it. All right, Carolyn.
I would say have proof points. Really understand and be able to communicate how you can support where you're trying to go. The more proof that you can show behind what you're trying to build and what you're trying to create, the more credibility you're going to build, the more confidence you're going to build for your company, and the more doors are going to open. Be really, really specific with your proof points, and then lay out your differentiators. Explain why you're different, why you're bringing something new to the market, why does this world need you? You're at the cusp of really making impact, whether that's job creation, whether that's community impact. Know how you're different and what you're bringing to the world and your value, and then line up as many proof points behind it as you can.
Thanks, Carolyn. Well, I am really happy to announce we have 5 minutes, which I am very, very happy to open up for any questions that our audience may have. This is an incredibly experienced panel, and so I would love to take any questions. The way that you would ask this question is to use the raise hand function on Zoom, and my colleague Val will help us identify if there are any questions.
We do have a question. So Malachi Rodriguez, please unmute yourself. We are excited to hear your question. Go ahead. It looks like you're unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon. So I was just wondering if you guys could post the links on the Q&A or somewhere for all the different sites that the grants are available. So I heard a couple different ones on here today with the Hello Alice and things like that on exactly where to apply through.
We'll be providing some web links that will take you to their respective organizations, and then within their webs, there's access to other grants. So yes, we'll make those available.
Okay, and where
We'll
would that
post
be
them right
available?
before we close. We're going to show them on the screen right before we adjourn today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
It looks like we have none.
All right. Well, a couple of things I want to do. First, I just want to thank Connie, Marie, Carolyn. This has been an incredible conversation. Even though I am in this world of grants, I have learned so much from you and been re-inspired to think about even more creatively how Wells Fargo can support grants for entrepreneurs. So thank you for your time. I also want to thank each of the entrepreneurs and audience here today for taking time to learn about grants, to figure out how this may be a fit for their small business. It's so important to, like I said earlier, to invest the time to be strategic. So thank you. I also want to invite you to visit the Wells Fargo Connect to More site. We have an extraordinary amount of resources that we curate for our small businesses. So please visit us there. And then you should also see momentarily the web links for the organizations for each of our panelists, which have an incredible amount of information as well. And they shared, I think, just the tip of the iceberg of what they do, all very powerful work. So thank you again for joining us today. We wish you continued success on your entrepreneurial journey. Have a great afternoon, everyone. See you soon. Bye.